guarantee you, my IQ is much higher than theirs, all right? You know,
I took my test. I took a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test.
In the grand, often stormy chronicle of the American executive branch, each commander-in-chief constructs a personal mythology, a narrative designed to project fortitude, foresight, and intellectual brilliance. Yet, what occurs when that narrative is revealed to be a total fabrication? More importantly, what happens when a predecessor decides that the sanctity of truth outweighs the long-standing etiquette of presidential silence? The title of this unfolding drama captures the precise moment of impact. Trump alleged a 180 IQ. Obama just exposed his failed cognitive exam, after Donald Trump declared to a fervent audience that he possessed a once-in-a-century intellect.
The questions, and then 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes later, they say, remember the first question? Not the first, but the 10th question? Give us that again. Can you do that again? And you go person, woman, man, camera, TV. They say, that's amazing.
He inadvertently invited scrutiny from the one individual who had viewed the classified reality. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the political establishment, former President Barack Obama has disclosed the actual and remarkably strange results of Trump's mental evaluation. This is not merely a partisan jab, it is a historic dismantling of a 5-decade-old persona. The rally itself was a display of raw, concentrated influence. Standing before a vast, cheering crowd, Trump was at his peak, a seasoned performer orchestrating a blend of grievance and triumph. Having spoken for over 60 minutes, he leaned toward the mic with a knowing, conspiratorial smirk. "The dishonest media loves to claim Donald Trump isn't bright," he remarked as the audience hissed on cue.
You, Mr. Trump, recognized that the real problem was a lack of leadership, and so ultimately you didn't blame Little John or Meatloaf. You fired Gary Busey. And these are the kind of decisions that would keep me up at night.
But I took a test at Walter Reed, a real exam with the finest doctors, and I crushed it. He straightened his posture, letting the tension mount. They told me, "Sir, we've never seen results like this. It was an IQ test, and I hit 1 at 80. That's genius territory, folks, the highest level." The supporters responded with a deafening, ecstatic roar, chanting the number 180 like a sacred mantra. He had crowned himself a visionary, and his followers were jubilant. The claim dominated headlines for days, but as the story expanded, so did the doubt. Then, the improbable occurred. Barack Obama's office announced an urgent press briefing at his foundation in Chicago. The world watched with bated breath, sensing the gravity of the moment. The former president approached the lectern, looking less like a rival and more like a weary statesman fulfilling a grim obligation. "Good morning," he began, his tone steady. "I have strictly followed the tradition of former presidents remaining silent on their successors' conduct. I believe this restraint is essential for our democracy. However, there are times when a lie is so significant, so bold, and so tied to the fitness of the commander-in-chief that silence becomes a form of negligence." The room fell silent. "As per protocol," Obama explained, "the private medical files of a sitting president, including cognitive tests, are accessible to their predecessor for the sake of national security continuity. I have possessed these documents since early 2021, praying I would never need to mention them. But the president's constant and hazardous deceptions regarding his mental state leave me no choice but to clarify the facts." He glanced at the papers before him. First, he noted, the exam at Walter Reed was not an IQ test. It was the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, or MoCA, a 10-minute screening meant to detect early dementia or Alzheimer's. A stir of disbelief moved through the press. Obama began reading from the official record. In the animal identification section, the president correctly spotted a lion. He was then shown a rhinoceros. Obama paused, looking genuinely baffled by the text, which he labeled in writing as a unicorn with skin problems. Stunned silence turned into scattered, nervous laughter. Obama continued in a somber, flat voice. He saw a camel and called it a lumpy horse. The reporters were visibly shocked. "Finally," Obama said, "during the clock-drawing task, he was told to set the time to 10 past 11. The president drew a circle but crammed all 12 numbers on the right side, between the 12 and the 6. The doctor's note reads, "Patient exhibits major signs of cognitive perseveration and a failure to grasp spatial relationships." He looked up, his face grave. "This isn't a joke. It is a national security crisis. A man claiming a 180 IQ who controls the nuclear arsenal cannot identify a rhino or draw a clock." The myth of the genius wasn't just challenged, it was obliterated in a bizarre public fashion. Barack Obama had just executed one of the most significant acts of any former leader, using surgical precision to tear down his successor's foundational myth, leaving the world to face a deeply troubling reality about the man holding power.